All right, guys. I want to go into something a um, little more in depth, a little more broad about this MK Ultra, this Monarch programming. For the most part, guys, what I've been sharing with you is what I would consider individual programming. This is something that I went through individually, and anybody else who has gone through it went through individually. It's a more personal form of the programming, okay? Making of the sleeper cell or the Manchurian candidate, that kind of type stuff. But there is another form of programming that they've been utilizing, implementing for a long time. I would actually say they started doing this pretty heavily. I would say they started it around the World War II era, but definitely by the time Daddy Bush had that speech where he said something about the 1,000 points of lights and how we're in the New World Order, or how we could get to this New World Order. Spoiler alert, we were already there when he said that. They were definitely implementing it then. And that is MK Ultra on a mass scale. They figured out, yeah, you can program people. You can program somebody individually, all right, just like you would a computer game. You sure can. And they were excited to figure out that you can do it, and it was successful. And they were also excited to see how far you could take it. But they wanted to know how much farther they could go with it. And so what did they do? What was the idea? Well, can we take these same practices, these similar themes, and can we broadcast it on the whole populace? So they wanted to know if they could use these practices on a broad scale, to broadcast it across the whole populace of people. Well, how do they do that? How does that work? Well, let's go back and think about the steps it takes to make an MK Ultra candidate, an MK Ultra programmed person. 1, you got to traumatize the victim. First step. How do they do that? Well, on the individual level, they use violence, rape, drugs, demonic possession. And they discovered something in the individual trials. They discovered that it doesn't exactly matter what you do. They discovered you just got to get the brain to think that it's going to die. You got to get the brain in a traumatic state. You need to get the brain in that wavelength. Okay? All right, now let's fast forward to a broad scale. Okay? Would war on the TV constantly, terrorism on the TV constantly, put fear in the mind of somebody? How about airplanes crashing into a building? Bunch of people dying. And then your teacher's putting it on the TV, playing it in front of the whole class all day long. I was in 6th grade when 9/11 happened. I was in my, I think it was homeroom class. My teacher comes up and she says, guys, y'all, listen, our nation is under attack. And then turned on the TV. I think she might have said a prayer. And then we watched that all day long. In every class it was playing on the TV. I asked my wife one day, where were you when 9/11 happened? What happened with her? She said, I was in gym class. Their homeroom was in gym. And I said, well, how did that work? When you were in gym, did you guys have a TV? She said, oh, yeah. She said the coach came up, had everyone sit down, said that the nation was under attack, and then wheeled out a TV for them to watch. And that sparked an idea in my head. I said, that's kind of an odd thing to do for a gym. You telling me the coach had to go in the closet, pull out the TV, and do all that work for an event that wasn't planned? I don't know. I just wonder how many other people, what did your teacher say? Did they say the exact words, "Our nation is under attack," right before they turned on the TV? I just thought it was weird. What are the odds? I was going to school in a whole different county at that time. But my teacher said the exact same words as her teacher. You think maybe all the schools got told what to say when that event took place? Anyway, I digress. Going back to the point of putting the mind in a traumatic state. Okay? So they use the media and the television and the radio to do that. It doesn't have to just be terrorism, war. Think about how violent our music is, how violent the movies and TV shows we watch are now, how graphic and gruesome they are. Some of them I can't even watch. I don't like seeing people get sliced up and all that. But that just seems to be a normal thing. You become desensitized. Part of the program. That's step 1, trauma. Step 2, programming. Well, how do you do that? Well, on the individual scale, they put a demonic spirit in the vessel. Okay? Belial, Ashtaroth. Take your pick. They'll use several. Well, how do you do that on a broad scale? It's not like people are coming into everybody's room and summoning demons in them. No, that's not what they're doing. But they have you watch your idols, your mediums, your celebrities on the TV. And guess what? Those celebrities are pretty puppets. And they're an image, a reflection of a demonic entity when they're under their programming. Now, I already told you a lot of those mediums and celebrities, I don't think actually know what's going on with them. They're under a way more severe set of programming and protocols. Because really, I think the mediums, our calling is to be of the light, naturally. Yeah. But they have these celebrities on TV doing these dances, dressed in a certain way, acting a certain way, presenting a certain persona, so that when the masses consume it, when the children, the impressionable children, watch these people on TV, what do? Well, they do what kids do best. They imitate. They soak it in. And if you're presenting a channel that's channeling a demonic spirit, guess what happens? That child imitates that demonic spirit. Albeit, this broadcasted form of MK Ultra, it's not as potent or as concentrated if you were to actually go to an MK Ultra facility or doctor and get personally programmed. For sure. But guess what they found out? Just like on the small scale, on the micro level, and the macro works pretty well too. Yeah, guys. That's what I mean when I said in my earlier lesson, when I talk about Jeremy, the song by Pearl Jam, it's actually called Jeremy, and I said that we've all been affected by the programming. That's what I mean when I say we all have been affected by the programming. Now, you sat next to me in your high school class. I was your classmate, guys, but would you have thought that I was actually trained by the government and by secret societies to one day maybe snap and hurt people if they wanted me to? I bet you wouldn't. You wouldn't think that by looking at me. I bet those kids in those other classes didn't really think that either when Columbine went down or those other deltas got set off in their schools and shot up the schools. or any of these other lone wolf gunman stories. Because like I said earlier, they paint the picture like these are just crazy kids that lost it. But the reality of it is, and I bet if they really did some dirt digging and looked at the policies and where these kids were hanging out, these kids were trained by people associated with your military. So yeah, this is just a boiled down version of it. There's more. I'd encourage you to do some research into the topic because it very much has been infused in our life. And it's time to break the curse. We can do it, guys. It's time to usher in the golden age. There are better times ahead. It's the millennial reign. And it's time for us to take it. Y'all have a good one.